It won't be long before someone in the Fire Force figures out we're down here in the Nether.
You're right, but that's to our advantage. Yona's at the gate. Tell him to be on guard.
We'll assist with preparations and reconnaissance.
There's no need for reconnaissance. Our enemy is the knave with the Adola link.
Hello everybody, MegaZard here. I'm back at it again to give y'all another exciting Fire Force episode review, and this time I'm going to be reviewing episode 19, Into the Nether. And if you haven't already watched my last week's episode review over episode 18 of Fire Force, you can go ahead and click that card in the corner and check that video out, and then come back and check this one though, because oh man, this episode, oh shoot, I've been waiting to get some good solid fights in this anime once again. And you know, we've been kind of going through the preparation and build up work for Company 8 to kind of, you know, bolster their strength enough to where the point where if they found out where the white clad is actually associated and located at, and if they were to try to knock down on their home base, hey, they'll actually have the strength and the manpower, along with the women power, which I'm going to emphasize a whole lot in this episode, to be able to take down the white clad members. And oh man, we're about to get into a lot of sick fights, and the ones that we got into today, oh man, it was nasty and it was solid and it was good. David Productions did an excellent job on this, and if you want to see some girl power high in action, you definitely got it between Maki and Tamaki going at it in this episode though. But overall, let's go ahead and dive straight up into this Fire Force review.
Tomorrow, we're gonna bust into the secret lair of the bastards who've been burning innocent people alive. We'll knock down all their doors and find the secret of human combustion. Expect a full-on battle, with all our lives at stake. We're bringing your brother home, Shinra.
Sir!
Okay, let's get ready for tomorrow. Dismissed!
So starting off at the very beginning of the episode, we just get to see a scene where it seems to be super far deep underneath ground, where you saw a scene where there was Dr. Giovanni and there was Lisa along with the other couple of white clad members, and then we had none other than Sho, and you know, Sho being the big boss at least around this area though, and he was basically saying, you know, or Dr. Giovanni was saying, hey, you know what, it's only gonna be a matter of time before the Fire Force actually figure out that we're actually residing in this area though. But you know, Sho's like, you know what, it's gonna be expected though, but hey, that works to our advantage whenever they do eventually try to, you know, come in here and try to knock on our front door. So anyway, they're just kind of talking about that game plan though, and then we get to see a quick little scene where we actually get to see Shinra back in the past with, you know, his mother and Sho whenever all of them were alive and kicking and doing well. And you know, Shinra's just kind of reading a book or whatever though, and then her mom kind of threatened, hey, you know what, they send the little bad boys down into the Nether, which kind of caught his attention though. But you know, just kind of looking throughout this scene, you know, the huge little thing about this was the fact of the matter that, you know, Sho was doing good, and you know, you just kind of got to see a little bit of backstory of, you know, how peaceful things were back in that past, you know, where Shinra didn't have to worry about a care in the world. And, you know, all of them were living there, and it seemed like Sho was super innocent and stuff. And it makes you really think and really consider, how in the world did Sho go from being pure and innocent like that to being what thought to be killed, you know, during that combustion event, and eventually, you know, leading and spearheading on one of the members or one of the parts of the white clad. It just really gets to start to make you think. And then right after that scene, we get a scene where Captain Obi is basically talking to all of Company 8. And he basically says, hey, thanks to the help of Professor Lick, I always like saying Professor Lick, because just saying straight up Lick, this doesn't even sound good. Anyway, Professor Lick, thanks to his insight, knowledge, and, you know, based upon all the experimentation that he's been doing, he basically was able to find a lead and found out that, hey, the white clad members are residing in the Nether. And the Nether is essentially the underground railways that, you know, used to be, Tokyo back in the day, whenever, those railways, people were, actually, it's sort of kind of like a subway system. Anyway, underground, those were, used quite a bit back in the day, though. But ever since that great catastrophe where, the fire inferno started to break out, all of that, nobody managed to go down there. And, Sister Iris basically said, the Great Soul Temple, they associate that Nether as a place that, hey, that's completely off limits, and they don't even allow anybody to basically go down in, which is ideally a good spot for the White Clad members to basically stay down in, because no one else is going to basically associate or try to even go down in there. And it takes a special kind of permit for them to actually get up in that area. And thankfully, Company 8 was granted permission once they figured out that, hey, some of the White Clad members might be down in there. So basically, Captain Obi was basically breaking down that whole entire game plan, letting them know how the subways kind of go in and out and whatnot. And essentially, he told Shinra to say, hey, look, it's time to strike. You know what? We're going to get your brother back, and we're going to finally figure out the root cause for human combustion, and basically try to put a huge end to this. And then, after that scene was over with, Captain Obi said, hey, can I talk to you for a moment, Tamaki? We don't know exactly what they're talking about until we figure out super late into the episode, though. But anyway, Shinra was in his room, and he was kind of just resting or whatnot, though. But then he had like a little vision, and he basically saw a woman that looked similar to Iris, which that's what he thought he saw. And in that scene, he was like, wait, what in the world? Like, she was like, didn't have like any clothes on, looked like sort of kind of worried or whatnot, though. And then his Adola Link started to kick in, and it made that weird kind of funny strange sound, and then boom, that was pretty much it for his vision. I think he pretty much woke up, though. And then it was followed by a quick little earthquake that Captain Obi and Lieutenant Hinawa were basically noticing, though, too. And that just kind of got on his mind, though. And that was pretty much it for the first part of the episode. And then we get to the part where we get to see all of Company 8, and they're about to roll out and try to, enter the Nether. And they're all in their company vehicle. We have Vulcan basically driving with Professor Lick, in the front with him. And then all the rest of the Company 8 members just kind of sitting in the back, thinking about all of the future events that are about to come, and, thinking about the great battle and whatnot, though. And then they basically enter in, or they find themselves at the entrance of the Nether, and it's basically like some railroad tracks that basically lead straight up in there, leading to the underground, and it was just kind of like sealed off, though. So it seems like it could have been fairly easy for anybody to kind of walk up in, which I guess that kind of explains how the White Clad members were able to essentially kind of walk up in there being undetected and everything else like that, though. Then we saw all the rest of the Company 8 members, and they basically started to, they pressed the button for the gates to open into the Nether, and they started to walk in, though. And then this is where we got to see 2 of the White Clad members, and we got to see one familiar person where, we saw him, at the workshop whenever all that fighting was going down with Vulcan and stuff like that. He was one that basically created the doppelgangers. Well, anyway, this dude was basically like the security kind of person. He's like, you know what? Hey, in order for us to kind of win these fights, we're going to break them up. Because if they fought all of Company 8, all of them standing right next to each other like that, though, it would have been a really tough battle. So they had to kind of weed them out and kind of pick them out one by one and split up this big old group. So basically, this dude kind of set like a little like smoke screen, kind of cloudy mist, and he started to create his doppelgangers and what like that. So basically, he created like an extra sort of kind of person in order to kind of trick one of the members, say, oh, hey, come over here in this way, though. And Captain Obi basically said from the very beginning, hey, do not move, do not get separated, though. And this dude created like 2 Tamakis to kind of like lure Iris back out. And, he basically used voices and then caused, Shinra to run off or Arthur to run off. And then at the very end, all we had left was Captain Obi and Vulcan. And Vulcan basically was smart and created sort of these kind of goggles where he wouldn't get kind of tricked by illusions or whatnot, though. So he was able to figure out, wasn't really nobody there that was kind of like running, trying to trick him off or whatever, though. But anyway, those 2 are kind of the smartest ones out of the bunch and managed to, stay grounded within what Captain Obi issued out. And then you get to see a quick little scene where it shows, gets the news that, hey, you know what, Company 8 is here and whatnot, though. And he's like, all right, everybody go, proceed according to plan, though. And you got to see that Archer woman. She's like, you know what, I'm going to go too. And that was pretty much it for that quick little scene, though. And then moving forward, we got a little scene where we got to see a quick little scene where you saw Tamaki along with Iris and another Tamaki. And, one of the Tamakis was obviously a fake that was, playing trickster or whatever though, and the fake one manages to run off or whatnot though, and then you got to see the other Tamaki, and it was kind of interesting to see how, you know, Iris ain't the smartest or the brightest person out of the bunch. Smarter and, you know, cuter and whatnot than Arthur though, but still, you know, not intelligently smart to be able to figure out who was the real Tamaki and who wasn't the real Tamaki. And you know, it wasn't until Tamaki pulled out a lucky lecture lure that she was like, oh, okay, that's the real Tamaki. And then the other one just basically took off after that though. And then you saw both of them run into who is to be called Assault. And this dude, apparently, from what Show was basically describing him as, whenever he told him that, hey, send out this dude in order to encounter and interrupt Company 8, it seemed like this dude was a bad mamma jamma, though. But I got some things to say about this, though, whenever we finally get to the fight between these two, because the scene quickly pans back to Maki, and Maki, you know, was separated, and she was all by herself and whatnot, though, and she had that gear that Vulcan basically created on her back. And then she runs into a group of white clad members, and you got to see one of those main leader dudes from one of the previous episodes though. At first she was kind of freaked out because she thought she might have saw some ghosts, because we know she's sort of kind of sweet in that nature where if things seem like mysterious and whatnot though, that kind of puts her off though. But as long as it's real people, she can really get to throwing down and whatnot though. But anyway, so all of these white clad underlings, the ones that aren't really that important, were trying to rush Maki, and she was able to make quick work out of them, like slamming them down into the ground, busting them up, all that yada yada yada. But then when the real fight was about to come down with the main person that was leading that small little group, she busted out her Tekio tech, and oh shoot, she was about to go to work then. And essentially, you know, all of them were starting to shoot fireballs at her, and, you know, she said that was basically nothing, and, you know, using her second generation pyrokinetic powers, be able to blow those fires off, and they're like, oh, she's a second gen, hey, don't let up on the firepower, though. But then she quickly started moving in, started grabbing people, started punching people, slamming them in the ground, headbutting them with her head. Like, this woman was a savage. I was enjoying almost every single moment of this fight, though. And I was like, man, these people couldn't even hold a candle to her. And then this dude's like, all right, you know what, I had enough. So he brought out his big old spike ball and started swinging that thing around like nobody's business. And Maki was doing her best to basically avoid it though. But then there was one moment where he basically managed to slam that thing down to the ground and hit that home run. And Maki was basically on her backside like, oh shoot, she couldn't do much more. And you know, her Tekio units come in and smash the dude in the head. She pops it up, gives him a gut check, follow it up with like a couple of like a 1-2 punches, and it was, ooh, man, that scene right there, dang, that mess was tight. And then the dude insulted her. We all know, hey, you never insult Maki, or you're gonna have what's coming to her. What's going to be coming to you. And man, she knocks that dude on the head, and it was adios, good night for that. And you know, that was like one of my best overall favorite scenes right there though.
I don't care how brawny you are, you're still just a woman! You can't hurt me!
Who are you calling? Gorilla Cyclops!
And then moving on, you basically get the second fight of what to be, you know, basically this huge onslaught girl power that we're basically seeing in this episode though. And then you get to see Tamaki versus Assault, and you know, she was kind of jumping all the way around, you know, using her pyrokinetic powers to basically move like a cat. And it's kind of interesting to see her kind of bounce around, moving like on all four legs, or we say 4 legs though, but you know, on her arms and on her 2 legs or whatnot though. And you know, Iris started to get super concerned though, because you know, Iris doesn't have any powers, so it's only basically Tamaki that can basically hold her own against Assault. And you know what, things started to seem really bad though. But then this is where we got to see a little scene, kickback scene back to some events that happened earlier in the episode that we didn't get to see, where Tamaki was basically talking to Captain Obi whenever he asked, can you have a moment? And, you know, Tamaki isn't really like a Company 8 member. You know, she's like a temporary member because she's only here for that certain probationary period because she was associated with Company 1 at first. But she said, no, since I'm a part of Company 8 for the time being, you know what, I ain't going to be associated with any kind of affairs that y'all basically going to be doing. with anything that y'all have to do associated with the white clad or whatever kind of issues or problems you have though. And then you got to see a quick little scene with Shinra talking to Tamaki and say, hey Tamaki, you know what, if you're ever in trouble, you know, just call out to me and I'll come there and help rescue you. But then Tamaki feels a little bit bad because, you know, she has that uniform for a reason. Like, she's gonna fight because she has that uniform, and she's supposed to basically protect anybody that basically needs help or, you know, fend off against enemies or whatnot though. Like, she's capable as a young independent woman to be able to do, you know, everything that she could in order to, you know, accomplish her goals though. And she doesn't need to be like a damsel in distress just for Shinra. And she basically had that uniform for a reason though, and she was basically going to prove it right then and there though. And then she started going tick for tack against Assault, and she was fighting a whole lot better than what she was previously though. And I was about to say hats off to Tamaki because she's gonna get a first a really good legit win against what seems to be a sort of kind of powerful and competent foe though. But then things take a sort of kind of turn of events, because then Tamaki's lucky lecture order pops out again, and the dude gets a handful of all of it, and we're like, oh my gosh. And that's my only thing about this whole entire fight. It was like, I feel like that was sort of kind of forced, because it's sort of kind of funny for some comedic effects though, but when you're getting down to the extreme, you know, serious parts of these fights, and you starting to go mano-y-mano and all this stuff, I'm like, can y'all like set that to the side just for a little bit? You can do it as soon as the scene's over with though, but you sort of kind of ruin the mood. And then I don't know, I kind of lost kind of whatever kind of little bit of respect I had for this villain. It was basically lost at this scene, because, you know, once he got a handful of that, he was like, oh wow, this is so good and all of this stuff. And I'm like, that's my only little complaint about this episode. But other than that, this episode was really solid. And then the dude basically popped back up, and he was like, you know what, I'm not done yet. And then, you know, Tamaki, you know, started to kick the dude in the head though. But this is when Iris got up with a big old lead bar that she just found lying around somewhere, and basically knocked the dude on the head. And you know what, that wasn't enough for them. She kept hitting them non-stop, over and over and over. And yeah, and you saw like two little mice, and they were basically blocking the viewpoint, because these girls were giving the smackdown and beatdown on this dude like you wouldn't even believe. And it got so brutal to the point where when they were done, they showed the dude, and they were looking over him, and they blurred out the image of him on what's seemed to be one side of the head. I'm pretty sure they busted this dude's skull in. Like, rest in peace, dude, because this dude ain't getting back up anytime soon. They knocked the snot at him, and I don't care what you say, Iris. You said Latom every time you beat that person in, but it's gonna take a crap ton more Latoms than what you just said in order to kind of redeem yourself from that. Because man, you probably killed the dude. I'm just being honest though. And anyway, they were walking away, and then that was pretty much it for the whole entire episode though. So overall, I really enjoyed this episode, and the fight with Maki as well as Tamaki with their respective antagonists, those were really cool, and I thought those fight scenes were very well handled though. And I'm pretty sure we're about to get a whole lot more looking into the next episode though. So overall, I was pretty impressed with this, and y'all gotta let me know down in the comment section down below what all did you think about this episode, and was it this episode that you were really looking forward to, and how did you like how all the events basically played out within this episode. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this episode review for me. So make sure to tune in next time for my episode 20 review, Wearing His Pride. And we only got a handful of episodes, only 5 more episodes left. So we're getting close to the final stretch though. But I'm hoping that this arc manages to hold its own, and you know, manages to do good and be able to end in such a good way to where for the last little bit of the wait that we have to do or to get the second part of this whole entire anime with the second cour, hey, it'll be much awaited and muchly greatly appreciated though. So remember y'all, until whatever video I make next, see y'all.
You see that I stand before you, yet you do not run. I commend your courage, but this fight ends now. Crimson Bullet!
Give me some credit, you arrogant!
Oh, she dodged it?